You know those terrifying stories you hear about online meetups gone wrong? Ever wonder what they all have in common? Well, today we're gonna break it all down. We're dissecting the anatomy of a real Cragslist horror story, looking at the patterns, from the bait to the trap, all the way to survival. Let's peel back the layers and see what really makes these things tick.
Chilling, right? I mean, just imagine that single sentence is the climax of this slow burn terror that all started with a simple, harmless-looking online ad. It's a perfect, horrifying example of how a totally normal situation can just twist into an absolute nightmare. So let's figure out how in the world we got to this point.
To really get these stories, you have to rewind the clock a bit, back to the early 2000s. The internet was a totally different beast back then. It really was like the digital Wild West. And right at the center of it all was this one website that connected millions of strangers with basically zero safety net. Yeah, before all the apps we have now with ratings and verified profiles, Craigslist was pretty much the main hub for everything. It was this giant treasure chest where you could find a cheap couch, a job, even a place to live. But that total lack of oversight, it also made it the perfect hunting ground, where anonymity could easily hide some really dangerous intentions. So every single one of these stories kicks off the exact same way, with a deal that is it's too good to be true. This is the bait. And it's always perfectly designed to hook someone who's in a vulnerable spot, whether they need a home, some furniture, or just a simple service.
So check out this ad. For a 21-year-old totally estranged from her family, stuck in a dead-end job, free housing for a little light cleaning isn't just a good deal, it's a lifeline. And no background check? Hey, even better, right? It feels like a brand new start.
Okay, in another story, you've got this young guy, he just got thrown out by his girlfriend, and he's just trying to get back on his feet. He stumbles on this, a full sectional sofa for 45 bucks. The seller says he's moving and just has to get rid of it. The price is crazy low, the reason makes perfect sense, it just seems like an unbelievable stroke of luck.
And then you see it from the other side. Here's a homeowner who just needs a little help keeping his place clean. He finds this super simple ad for an independent cleaner. Cash only, flexible schedule, it's easy, convenient, totally straightforward. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? But here's the thing. Long before the real danger shows up, things start to feel a little off. There are always these subtle red flags, these tiny, unsettling details that your gut picks up on, even while your brain is working overtime trying to dismiss them. Just think about it for a second. Cameras in the house that no one told you about. Weird noises in the middle of the night. A phone number that's suddenly no longer in service right when you're supposed to meet. I mean, one by one, you might just brush them off, right? A damp towel, missing yogurt. It's so easy to think you're just being forgetful or, paranoid. But when you put them all together, they paint a really, really disturbing picture.
And this is the battle that happens inside your head. We tell ourselves, oh, it's just an old house creaking, when the reality is someone is literally living there in secret. We think, I must have left that cabinet open. But the truth is, an intruder is using your kitchen when you're not home. This process, this rationalization, it's what keeps people in dangerous situations for way longer than they should be.
But you can only explain away the weirdness for so long. Eventually, there's always a moment of just horrifying clarity. It's that turning point where the whole act just drops, and the true, terrifying nature of the situation comes rushing out.
So, in our first story, the friendly homeowner, Jackson, suddenly just snaps. Over a plate of pasta, his personality flips from easygoing to aggressive and demanding in an instant. It's the very first glimpse of the controlling, volatile person who is hiding under that welcoming mask.
The full truth comes out from a terrifying warning. The girl who was in her situation before her literally flags her down on the street and reveals everything. There are hidden cameras in the bedroom, and the most horrifying part, Jackson doesn't have a job. He never leaves. He has been in the house watching her the entire time.
For the homeowner, the mask slips when he finally decides to stay home and see what's actually going on. Hiding upstairs, he watches his front door get unlocked. But it's not his cleaner. It's a total stranger, a woman with this hateful look on her face, who walks right in like she owns the place. The cleaner had an accomplice.
And for the guy buying the sofa, the situation just escalates with terrifying speed. We're talking 5 minutes. In just 5 minutes, he goes from arriving at a dark house to being lured right into an ambush.
The seller pops out of the bushes, tells him to ram a stuck door with his shoulder, and as soon as he does, the door gets pulled open from the inside, sending him sprawling into a pitch-black room. And that's it. That's the moment the trap is sprung. As he hits the floor, the seller, Keith, yells, "Now!" and two other guys jump out of the darkness and hold him down. The $45 couch, it was never real. It was just the lure for something way, way more sinister.
Okay, so these accounts they're harrowing, for sure. But they aren't just here for shock value. They contain these critical lessons about survival, about intuition, and about how to navigate a world where our online lives can have very real and sometimes very dangerous consequences. It really forces us to ask ourselves a crucial question. When you're faced with an opportunity that seems perfect on paper, but your gut is just screaming that something is off, what do? How do you protect yourself without becoming paranoid about every single person you meet?
Well, this brings us to what you could call the survivor's playbook, and it's built from the mistakes and the successes in these very stories. Number 1, always tell someone exactly where you're going and when you'll check in. Number 2, vet the situation, meaning public, and never, ever go to a strange, isolated place alone, especially at night. But most importantly, trust that feeling in your gut. That little voice you keep trying to explain away, that is your most powerful defense mechanism. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. Get out. Don't second guess, don't try to be polite, just leave. And that brings us to the final haunting takeaway from that first story. A free room, a super cheap couch, sometimes these things come at a cost that is just way too high to pay. The ultimate lesson here is that when you're dealing with strangers online, being vigilant isn't being paranoid, it's just survival.